when we arrived in Puerto Rico, definitely I think the first week was just a shock to me because it was so different. I remember the very first night taking a shower and getting out and being just soaked in sweat as soon as I got out of the shower. And I was like, why is it's so hot? I just showered and it was just that way. I remember laying in bed my first night and there's so many cars and animal noises and it's hot and I'm sweaty and I was just like, I'm never going to adjust to this. But I did. And so just the atmosphere, I think, was a huge adjustment for me, getting used to the heat especially and the humidity. And my first area was in like a city area. And so that was kind of an adjustment for me being a rural farm boy. But yeah, it was definitely a big adjustment. And then the Spanish on top of that was an interesting experience. But we adjusted and got used to it and got through it. Well, as far as history of the mission and the church there goes, I know that missionary work started there, I think in the 70s. The church has been there about 40 years. And originally, Puerto Rico was part of the Florida, I want to say Fort Lauderdale mission. And so there weren't a lot of missionaries there. And then it was changed to the Caribbean mission, and eventually it became the Puerto Rican mission. And about 5 or 6 years ago, it was divided into 2 missions, but only for one mission president's term for 3 years, and then it was put back together as one. And so that's kind of the history of the missions there. The current mission includes Puerto Rico and the British and U.S. Virgin Islands, and St. Kitts and Nevis, and Dominica, and something else, but I don't remember what it is. But so those outer islands as well. As far as missionaries, the mission is, when I got there, there were about 120 missionaries. Now there's about 180 missionaries because it's grown a lot. It's about half, I would say, about half American missionaries or North American missionaries and half Latin American missionaries, so people from South America or Central America and Mexico, and the Dominican Republic as well. The church in Puerto Rico, there's 5 stakes currently. And then the other islands are all a district. And so that's that, and they're all under the mission president there. And then there's 5 stakes within the island. And there weren't 5 stakes until very recently. They were mostly districts because they're smaller. But they made the decision that they should be stakes. And I think it's helped the growth a lot. Most members are converts because the church hasn't been there very long. Now the rising generation, the people that are going on missions now are second generation, but almost everyone that's older is a convert, which is super cool for missionary work because they have their own conversion experience meeting the missionaries, and they all love the missionaries, so that's pretty cool as far as that. Puerto Rico is a pretty good mix between, I would say, American type living culture and Latin living and culture. And I think the closer you get to San Juan, the more Americanized it is. There's more malls and things like that, more places to shop, and the further you get out into the island, the further you get into the mountains or further west, you get more of the country type people that are more traditional in the way that they live. One thing I think that every person in Puerto Rico has is like a garden with herbs and fruit. I think everyone in Puerto Rico has a banana tree in their yard, or a mango tree, or a papaya tree, or their little farm. And so I think, or coffee also. A lot of people grow their own coffee. And so that's a big thing that people do. They just kind of work with the earth and do their thing. And as far as transportation, I've heard people say that there are more cars on Puerto Rico than there are people. I don't know if that's true, but it probably is. Most people travel by car. The roads are really bad, and people are pretty bad drivers. They drive a little crazy sometimes, but everyone drives. For those that don't have cars, people will walk. A lot of people, there's some public transportation, but not very much. There's no trains. There are some buses, especially in the San Juan area. some people ride horses, especially in the mountains, in the country. You'll see people riding horses, and it's actually kind of a funny thing. Sometimes on a Friday night, everyone will get together and they'll ride their horses in what's called a cabalgata, and they'll just with their drinks in hand, they'll go riding through town in a pack of 50 or so people on their horses down the main streets, and it's kind of a normal thing. You just I got used to it, and we like to see them riding around. So people use horses a lot for transportation as well within the smaller cities. A lot of people don't work. I don't know what the percentage of unemployment is, but a lot of people don't have jobs, partly because there aren't a lot of jobs available. I know it's very hard to find work, and partly because a lot of people just, it's so hot, they don't really want to work. And so I know it's hard to find a job, and so those people that don't work, they kind of sit around, they take care of their house, they clean and stuff. They'll play dominoes a lot, just kind of hanging out, island life, very relaxed, very calm. Nobody's ever in a rush, which was sometimes frustrating as missionaries. We wanted to set appointments and people are like, just come by whenever, like, we'll be here, we're not going anywhere. And then we would come by and they wouldn't be there. So it could be frustrating at times trying to get people nailed down for an appointment. Housing was different for me at first. Everyone, all houses are made out of cement blocking because of the hurricanes that come through, and it's not ideal for the heat. Cement blocking is kind of like a brick oven, it just bakes you inside. But because the hurricanes come through and they'll destroy anything, even the cement, but that's the sturdiest thing that they use. And so every house, I think, on Puerto Rico is made out of cement blocks. And they all have flat roofs. Nobody has shingles. I only saw ever one house that had shingles on it. They all are flat roofed, and they're constantly, you have to resurface your roof like every couple of years because there's so much rain that the surfacing just gets worn out and your roof starts to leak and it starts to cave in. And so every couple of years they're resurfacing their roof, and we helped people a lot with that, to do that for service, as well as painting. Almost every year, I think, for Christmas, people will paint their houses a new color, or the same color, but one year it'll be green, the next it'll be blue. And I remember one time with one of my companions, we had met someone a couple of weeks ago, and their house was blue, and we came back and we couldn't find it, and it turned out that they had painted their house green in the few days that we hadn't come by, and so that was why we couldn't find it. I guess that's part of the living conditions. Most people also have like an open garage or a sitting area outside where they can kind of enjoy the breeze when it's there and sit outside. All the houses have bars in front of them. Almost all of them have like kind of a cage wrapped around them. It's for your like little outside sitting area, and it's to protect from like robbers, I guess, and crime. And then the windows also are a little different. They're all like, they're not open windows, they're like little slats, because I think partly it's for safety, to keep people from breaking in, but also when a hurricane comes through, it's less likely to break those types of windows than a big pane of glass, I think. So a lot of people have those windows. And everyone that doesn't have AC wishes they had AC, and I think you have to have a fan. I think it's mandatory. As far as living conditions. Let's see, going shopping. Well, almost everywhere you can find some kind of a supermarket. There's not everywhere a Walmart. There's no Target at all in Puerto Rico, but you'll find Walmarts or Costco's in some areas, especially around the city. But there's always, some kind of a supermarket, Ralph's or Ralph's, I guess. And they have almost everything you would find in the United States. There were a couple of things that I couldn't find, that my mom would send me a recipe and I would go looking for something and I just couldn't find it. But there are also lots of things there that you wouldn't find in your average American supermarket, especially fruit like mangoes and fresh pineapple and papaya and things like that, passion fruit, star fruit, whatever. And then herbs like cilantro, culantro, any of those things. People eat a lot of chicken and a lot of meat, so there's huge meat section, and lots of seafood too. People eat this fish called bacalao. I don't know what it's called in English, but I think it's codfish actually, and it's not very good. It's you know, you can eat it, but people love that, and especially around Easter they'll eat a lot of fish. So yeah, you can find almost anything in Puerto Rican market. A big do is always eat, and I think that's just a general missionary rule, but Puerto Rican women love it when you'll eat their food and when you'll eat more. I don't think it's even possible to refuse seconds. I felt like always on my mission, people would come and they'd like, do you want more? And I'd be like, oh, I'm okay. And they'd be like, more? And they would just start putting it on my plate. I'd be like, all right, we're eating more. And you just eat it, and they love it. They love it when you eat a lot. It makes them so happy because they just cook a lot anyway. Puerto Ricans also are very prideful in kind of a good way, but they love to be complimented. They love to talk about whatever they do, and they'll talk your ear off for forever about what they do and things that they've had happen, and they just like to be listened to, I think. So that's a big it can be hard sometimes as a missionary, and it's an important skill to learn, is to listen to people, but they love to tell you stories and to tell you jokes, and so just laugh. And they're usually pretty good stories anyway, so that's a big do. I don't know if it's a do, but it's something cultural. You don't knock on doors like ever, because of those cages that I talked about in front of people's houses. You can't get to the door, and so what you do is you yell. You just say, you know, buenos tardes or buenos dias, whatever time of day it is, and you just yell it as loud as you can until someone comes out. And that's etiquette. I think at first I felt like it was kind of maybe rude, but it's not. Like, everyone does it. That's just how you get a hold of someone. Puerto Rico isn't super diverse as far as wildlife goes. In plants, I think yes, but in animals, no. There are very few animals that live on the island that aren't domesticated. Basically, you've got bats and birds and lizards and frogs and rodents, and I think that's it. And the biggest thing that you'll see a lot in Puerto Rico, depending on where you're at, is iguanas. There are tons of iguanas. I guess there used to not be as many, but now the population has just kind of exploded because there's nothing, they don't have any predators, so they're just kind of taking over. And in one of my areas, we would see tons of iguanas all the time. And they get hit on the road, and they're in the trees, and they're right next to your house sometimes when you come home. And the big thing for a lot of missionaries is to try and catch an iguana so that you can take a picture with it to send home. And they're kind of, I mean, they're not dangerous. I don't think they'll kill you, but they will whip you with their tails, and they'll scratch you with their claws. And we did catch one once, and we wanted to eat it, but we didn't know how, because apparently you can do that as well. And so there's definitely a lot of iguanas. If you want a picture with them, good luck. It's not very easy to catch them, but it can be done. So that's fun. The other big animal that everyone talks about is the coqui, which is like this famous frog in Puerto Rico. Supposedly, I guess it's only from Puerto Rico. That's the only place that it is native from. I think it is like it lives in Hawaii now, I guess. It's kind of an invasive species. But Puerto Rico is its home, and it's the only place on earth where it exists. And it makes a distinctive whistling noise. It goes. And so that's just kind of the famous, you know, coqui noise. And you will hear it from the time you get off the plane until the time you get on the plane, because they are just constantly, especially at night, just singing, and they're everywhere, except maybe in San Juan. But so there's tons of those, and I only saw, I think, like 4 or 5 in my entire mission. They're very small, like that big. And so you don't see them a lot, but you hear them all the time. You've got cockroaches. Obviously, it's hot, and they can get kind of big, and sometimes they're in your apartment. There are lots of ants. I think all of my apartments had ants in them, and spiders. There are tarantulas, but I never saw one, but supposedly they are. One time in one of my areas, we did find like a python that it's not native. There aren't a lot of big snakes in Puerto Rico, but one of our investigators told us that he had seen this snake on his property, and it bit his dog, I guess, and his dog didn't die. But then later, while we were crossing a bridge, we saw this big python, and it was just coiled up there, and we were like, oh my goodness. And my companion wanted to catch it, and I thought that was a bad idea, so we didn't, but we took some pictures. And so there are things like that. I think I've heard there are crocodiles in some parts, kind of invasive, just anything jungly. There are some, I guess. There are parrots in some parts, and those are native. So yeah, it's kind of fun. Normally there's not too much wildlife, but sometimes if you're in the right place, you can find some fun adventure with wildlife. Dogs, everyone has a dog, I think. And I loved dogs before my mission, and now I'm not too fond of dogs, because they bark so much, and they'll chase you, and they will bite you. I never got bit by a dog, but I did have one experience with my companion when we were walking down the street, and 5 or 6 dogs, big dogs, came out, and they started barking at us, and they like surrounded us. And I took off my bag, and my companion was so scared, he was just cowering, and I had my bag, and I was ready to hit them, and I was going to, and they were like biting at his heels, and I was swinging at them, and finally the owner came out, and he called them off, but we were pretty scared. And I know plenty of other missionaries who did actually get bit by dogs. So that's definitely something to watch out for, as dogs. Always be ready to smack them or just scare them, because usually if you turn around and, get in their face, they'll run away. But not always. So, well, Puerto Rican food is almost always rice and beans of some sort. I mean, there's white rice, and then there's something called rice with gandules, which is a local favorite. I don't feel like it's anything special, but it is good. It's not bad. And we eat rice and beans with everything. And then the Creole type of food is a lot of chicken. They make something around Christmas time. They make a lot of things around Christmas time, actually. Something called pasteles, which if you're familiar with like tamales, it's very similar to that. But it's made from something else, and it's wrapped in banana leaves instead of corn. And it's good, and it has olives and stuff in it. And then also around Christmas time, they'll make a drink called coquito, which is named after the coqui, which is the famous singing frog, I guess, in Puerto Rico. And it's an alcoholic beverage usually, but members and ourselves, we drink it non-alcoholic. And it's good. It's kind of like eggnog. It's a little bit sweeter, but it is relatively the same. And it has like coconut and pineapple and stuff in it. So it's good. Other foods, what else? They make, my favorite dish is something called pastelón, which is like lasagna, but it's made with plantains. And they cut the plantains really thin and then layer them like noodles. And then you do meat and cheese and do layers like that and make a lasagna. And it's really, really good. I would always ask people to make that for us if I had the opportunity to. That's my favorite food. As far as things I didn't like, there's like this delicacy, I don't know if it's a Christmas thing, but it's called morcilla, and it's blood sausage. It's basically pig intestines filled with rice and blood and seasoning, I guess. And then they cook it and you eat it. And my companion and I tried it, and I didn't not like it. It wasn't horrible, but I think just knowing that it was, of an intestine full of blood made it kind of less than wonderful. So that was kind of weird. And then the only other thing my entire time on the island that I had that I didn't like was a soup. And I don't even know what it's called, but it just tasted, it was like a fish soup. And it tasted like the way fish smell. And it just looked like that. And it wasn't very good. No one made it for me. We got it at a restaurant, so don't buy fish soup at restaurants, I guess. But other than that, I loved everything. Everything was just wonderful and delicious, and never got tired of it. So crime, it's a problem. It's a problem everywhere in the world, I think. Especially the biggest thing that we had a problem with was theft with bikes. My bike got stolen my second month on my mission. My companion and I were at the church, which is a fenced-in enclosure, and we were just going in for a few minutes to grab something. I don't even remember what. And we had our bikes there, and we left them there, and we left them outside, and we left. And then we were like, oh, we're going to be back soon. Like, no big deal. They're at the church. They're in the fence. And we came back, and it hadn't been that long, and they were gone. And so, pointer, always lock up your bike. I don't think they have bikes anymore in the mission, but if they get them back, always, always, always lock up your bike. That's the biggest problem, is theft. There are places in Puerto Rico called caseríos, which are the housing projects, I guess, and they are very dangerous. Depending on the part of the island you're in, they're more dangerous. Obviously in San Juan, they're more dangerous than in the center of the island. But those are generally the places that are known as, the places to be careful. And so I just recommend, and always recommended to missionaries, not going there at night. If you have someone to visit there, go visit them and get out. But if you don't have to be there, don't be there, because they're pretty dangerous sometimes. The other thing, obviously you have to be safe on the street when you're walking, where you're walking. Sometimes missionaries get robbed or shot at and things like that. That never happened to me. I didn't get robbed, but I got held up once, and then it was a joke. I didn't think it was funny at all, but we were walking up this alleyway, and it was upstairs, and this guy started coming towards us, and then he crouches down, like he has this bag in his hands, and he's like, "Give me all your money." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, we're getting robbed." And then he starts laughing, and he's like, "No, I'm just kidding. Like, don't you remember me? You talked to me the other day." I was like, "Sir, it is dark, and we talk to hundreds of people every day. Like, you are not funny." And so that happened to me, and thankfully it wasn't real. It's funny now, but at the time it was kind of scary. So that stuff does happen for real sometimes. So it's always just good to be safe, to stay in well-lit areas, to not go places. And I think wherever you're at, you'll know where not to go. The locals will tell you, your companion will know, don't go there at night, or don't go there at all. There are just those places in each city that are kind of dangerous, and they're kind of where the bad stuff happens. People say that Spanish in Puerto Rico is sing-songy, and I didn't realize it until I'd been there a while, and I kind of learned to recognize the sing-songy. But it is sometimes, especially women, will say things in a sing-songy voice. And it's similar to a Dominican accent, but it's different. They cut their words off at the end. They cut off S's and whatever's at the end, and so sometimes you don't know what the word is. Instead of saying para, they'll always say pa, and it can be sometimes confusing. And they have several phrases. Everyone always says "ay bendito." It's just kind of the Puerto Rican use-all catchphrase. Whatever's happening, you can say "ay bendito," and it just means, it can mean anything. I don't really know what it means. They'll say brutal, which means something's cool. I thought that was normal, but I guess it's not. They'll say something is brutal. The other thing that is confusing about the Spanish is sometimes the L's or the R's will be switched for L's. So they'll say like Puerto Rico with L's instead of R's, and that's confusing. There's also kind of a mountain dialect. In the center of the island, people kind of, with their R's, they'll say, instead of perro, they'll say pejo or cajo. So it's kind of like a guttural noise, I guess. Yeah, I guess I could demonstrate a little bit of Puerto Rican sing-songy. When we'll come to the door, a lot of times women will be like, "Mira, nene, vente pa' acá, yo no puedo hoy, sabe? Vente mañana si quieres." And they kind of talk like that. That probably wasn't very good, but that's how they talk. So before I left on my mission, about a couple of months before I put in my papers, my older brother was serving his mission, and he and his companion were killed while they were riding their bikes. And so I decided to serve a mission, but that experience, kind of made me a little bit scared, and I think it had my family scared. But anyway, while I was on my mission, I was riding my bike, and I got hit by a car. The road kind of divided, and I wanted to go one way, and this van wanted to go the other way, and we just kind of met in the middle. And I remember feeling, it was kind of like I was in a dream, like I'm getting hit by a car, but it didn't hurt it felt like I had been pushed out of the way. And it was, I just kept riding my bike. I didn't fall down. I didn't get knocked over. And I stopped after that. And I kind of looked back, and the guy driving this truck was looking at me like, oh my goodness, why aren't you, you should be dead or something. And I was fine. My bike was fine. There was nothing wrong with his van even. And we just kind of went our separate ways. And when I told my family about that, obviously they were shaken up by that. But I know that I was protected, and I know that it was my brother that protected me. And so that was a special experience to me, to know that all missionaries are watched over. Regardless of what happens on your mission, we're protected, and there are other forces that we can't see that keep us safe, and as long as we're doing the right thing, things happen the way that they are meant to. So that was a cool experience for me. When my brother died, I was months or weeks away from turning in my own mission papers, and so immediately jumped to everyone's minds, I guess, the question, are you going to serve a mission? And it surprised me how many people asked me that. My aunts and uncles, who all of their children had served missions and were very faithful, asked me, are you going to serve a mission? And to me, serving a mission had always been a definite, like, yes, you know. And suddenly it became very optional to me. I felt like nobody would ever say anything bad about me if I didn't serve a mission. Everyone would understand. And it was kind of like this escape route. And there were a lot of nights that I spent just pleading with my Heavenly Father, I want to do this, but I'm afraid. And I'm afraid of what it might do to my family. I'm afraid of what might happen to me. And the answer was very clear that I did need to serve a mission. And so I kind of just had to put that aside and, you know, literally trust in Heavenly Father's plan. And I put my mission papers in. And the beginning of my mission was rough, I think, because of that, because I was scared and I was very emotional still. It had been, you know, 7 or 8 months since my brother had died. And, but as I continued to serve my mission, I felt like he was there for me. My stake president had told me before I left that he would be there for me. And when I got to my mission president told me, he pulled me aside and he told me, you will always be in a threesome, Elder Walker, because your brother will always be right beside you. And I had so many wonderful experiences because of that. Some of them are very personal, but just knowing that he was there beside me and that he was still doing missionary work was something that I definitely treasured a lot during my mission. I think also I gained a stronger testimony of the plan of salvation because of my experience. And I could relate so much better to so many people who go through such similar things, so many things worse than that, whose hearts are broken and their lives are shattered. But I was able to relate to them and to share my experiences with them and to, you know, cry with those people. And I think that it really strengthened me overall. It was hard, but I would say to anyone who has had any sort of similar experience, you know, it's worth it. Your testimony will be strengthened so much because of the sacrifices that you may make. And I know that there's more to this life than just this life, and that we'll be reunited again. And I think I would regret it so much if I had decided not to serve a mission. So I think I personally learned so much from having that experience in my life. One time, in my very favorite area, I was training a new missionary, and I don't think he'd been out more than 2 weeks, and we were looking for new investigators. We hadn't been able to find any good investigators for a while, and we were kind of struggling to find some people. So we were just walking through the streets and trying to talk to people and trying to find people. And this particular elder he's a great missionary. He's just not afraid to do anything. And we decided that we needed to stop and pray. Our mission president had told us just very recently that if we would just pray to have experiences and to be able to find people, that the Heavenly Father would place people in our path. And so we decided that that's what we would do. And so right in the middle of this busy street, we just stopped and we bowed our heads, I guess. And we said a prayer, and we asked Heavenly Father that He would place someone in our path that was prepared to receive the gospel. And we ended our prayer, and we started walking. And like I said, it was busy, so it was a matter of seconds before we crossed paths with the very first person. And we stopped, and we started talking to them. And I let him, start it because he was learning Spanish. And she started telling us that she had actually been an investigator before. A couple of years ago, she had been taking the lessons, and her sister was a member of the church. And I think I got really excited because I took over and I started talking to her, and she said we could come by. And so, long story short, this lady, she started investigating again, and we had several great experiences with her. And herself, she and her son eventually ended up getting baptized shortly after I left the area. But what I learned from that was a couple of things. The first thing is that prayers get answered. And so often we talk about how prayers aren't always answered just like that, but sometimes they are. I think so often about what would have happened if we would have passed her. Because she was the very first person we saw. It would have been easy to just, say, well, it's not this one because it's probably going to take a while. But it was right there, and how easy it would have been to miss it. But also that Heavenly Father does place people in our paths, that our steps are guided, that was 100% meant to be, and how much it built my faith to know that we had asked something so simple and Heavenly Father had given it to us because of our faith. So that experience, and then what followed with her, was just a real testimony builder for me. It was a pretty cool thing. Well, congratulations on receiving your mission call. Your mission will be the best 2 years of your life. It will be the hardest, most difficult, most strenuous, most stressful 2 years of your life, but every second of it will be worth it. Your testimony will be strengthened so much, and you will have so many amazing experiences that I doubt you will ever regret it. I don't think anyone would ever regret serving a mission for the Lord. I know that because of my mission, my life has been changed completely, that I'm a different, better person, and that anyone who serves a mission will experience the same thing, as long as they do it worthily and as long as they give everything to the Lord. So I would just say, make sure that you give everything to the Lord. Every day, give 100%, the very best that you can. Do everything you can to bring other people into Christ, because it will make all the difference. And you don't want to serve and to not give everything, because then you'll regret it. So good luck. Study up, read your scriptures, preach my gospel, and you'll be ready. I know that this is the Lord's work, and that as you serve Him, that you will have those wonderful experiences to call your own.
So when it was finally time for me to go to the MTC, which actually didn't take very long since I got my mission call only 46 days before I needed to report, the time went really fast and also really slow. But I just remember arriving to the MTC and just feeling so excited. I went to the Dominican Republic MTC, and it was amazing. I love it. It's a really small MTC on the temple grounds of the Santo Domingo temple. And it's really small but beautiful. And the MTC is just super little and wasn't really what I was expecting, because I heard so much about the Provo MTC being so busy and full of people. And so it wasn't really what I was expecting, but it was so amazing. There was only about 30 missionaries there at the time, and only like 4 or 5 teachers. And it was really cool because we got to know the teachers and the mission president really well. And I just remember flying over the island and just feeling so excited and so hopeful. Like it finally came. It was finally my turn to put on my name tag and to be a missionary. And I was so excited. And I remember walking into our rooms, and we had like this little envelope that had our things in it, and then sitting on there was our name tags. And I was so happy to like put my name tag on. I just remember going to the mirror and putting it on there, and I just felt where I was supposed to be, and it was an amazing feeling. The MTC is really great in the Dominican Republic. The food will fill you up so fast. They give you so much food, a scoop of rice, a scoop of beans, and a huge chunk of meat every day. And there's salad and fruit and yeah. Get your skirts like a little too big because you'll eat a lot. But it's a really good MTC, and the spirit is so strong, and the teachers are amazing. Just listen to them and follow their guidance, and just pray to be the missionary that the Lord needs you, and you'll learn so much in the MTC. I just encourage you to use your time wisely. Use your time wisely to study the language. You'll be so grateful that you did. So I'll always remember my first day on the mission. It was amazing. It was so surreal. Coming from the MTC to Puerto Rico was so such a surreal moment. I just remember flying over and knowing that this was where I needed to serve the Lord and where I needed to give all my time. It was really cool to see the island from the airplane. I remember all of us were freaking out on the airplane because we were so excited to finally be there. We'd been preparing and we were really excited to go. And I remember just being so nervous about my trainer and praying about her, that she'll like me, and just hoping that everything would be okay and that I would be able to learn Spanish. And I was so nervous. And I remember the first night, the first day in the mission, we went and President and Sister Boucher picked us up from the airport. And I just was so excited to finally meet them and to be able to just be in Puerto Rico was so amazing, because I knew that it wasn't just a dot on the map anymore. It was my home, and it was where I was supposed to serve. And so arriving there, I was so excited, and so we went over to President's house and ate some lunch, and it was really fun. And we were all just nervous to meet our trainers. We were all just so anxious. We're I wonder what she's like. I wonder if she likes me, and really funny things. And so we decided. Well, after we went to President's house, we had an orientation where we talked about the car and stuff like that, and about the mission, about how we'd use our cards and our money and stuff like that. And then later we went to the chapel where we were going to meet our trainers, and we go into this room of the chapel, and there's lined up all of the trainers, all the people that were going to be training us. And then we were to walk in, and we just could see all of them. And I remember just standing in line, and I remember turning to my companion at the time, that was my companion in the MTC, and I looked, I was I think that she's going to be my mom, my mission mom, that's what we call them. I was I think she's going to be my trainer. And she's well, we'll see, And then she ended up being my trainer. So it was super cool, because as soon as I saw Sister Allen, I knew that she would be my trainer, and it was really cool. And then I just remember driving to my first area, Cabo Rojo, and it was so surreal, just being there. And it was super dark outside, and I couldn't see very well, but I just felt so great, and so great to be with my companion. And I remember pulling up to our home, and I couldn't see anything outside. It was super dark, and I couldn't really see much, but I was just so excited, and we brought my stuff upstairs and didn't unpack it because it was already time for bed, but I just remember feeling so great, and I slept like a baby that night. I don't know how. I thought that I would have been nervous, but I remember sleeping so good. And I woke up, and I was just so excited. I was let's go. And I was just really excited to be there, and to finally be in my first area with my companion, my trainer, and it was really fun. But my first actual day of work was really hard. I actually ended up getting a really bad migraine, and I had never had one before, and I just had this really bad headache, and I was super hot and dehydrated, and we ended up having to come home so that I could take some medicine and relax just a little. But yeah, so I was super nervous. I was oh my gosh, what if I can't do this? But that was hard. And then when we finally were able to leave again, it was so cool. We went and taught a lesson that night, and I was we taught about the gospel, and I just felt so excited because I was finally doing what I came to do, and I finally felt productive as an instrument of the Lord. And I remember walking home from our appointment, and hearing the coqui frogs. So the coqui frog is one of my favorite things about Puerto Rico. It's this little teeny frog that makes the most beautiful noise, and it just sounds so cute. And it does it all night long in every area of Puerto Rico. You can just hear it all night, and it's beautiful. And I'm not going to try to make the sound because, yeah, I'd mess up. But it's really cool. And I remember hearing the coqui that night as I walked home, and I just remember feeling so grateful that I could be in this area, and grateful that I could be a servant of the Lord. You will love the coqui, I promise you, and you will miss it when you come home. But don't worry, they have like YouTube videos of the coqui, so you can listen to it later if you miss it, like me. So I served in the Puerto Rico San Juan mission. There's only one mission in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States, and when I got my call, I didn't know that, but I don't know, cool fact that I probably should have known a long time ago. But so there's one mission in Puerto Rico. It covers the whole island. And there's 5 stakes in Puerto Rico. And they're all like fairly small. There's some really great members who will just work so hard with the missionaries and try so hard to bring their friends to church and invite everyone. And it's such a blessing. The members are really so great. And they love the gospel. They love the missionaries, and they'll love you. I had the opportunity to serve in 2 areas. In Cabo Rojo. Here, I don't know if you can see this, but this is how the island's shaped. It's shaped like your left hand. So this is San Juan, the area that everyone knows. And Cabo Rojo is down here at the bottom. This was my first area, and it's so beautiful, Cabo Rojo. The beaches are amazing. It's more campo, is what they call it. It's country. And so there's not really like any apartment buildings or like big buildings. It's just like country. Like it's country. There's fields, and it's gorgeous. Gorgeous place. There, it's quite poor there. Houses are really little, and yeah, it's beautiful. Cabo Rojo is gorgeous. I was there for 5 transfers, which is a really long time, but it was so beautiful, and I'm so grateful that I got to serve in Cabo Rojo. And then my other area, I was only there for 1 transfer, but I got to come up to the city. So it was really cool because I started down here in the country, and then I moved up to the city part of Puerto Rico. And it was such a blessing to have both of the areas, to be able to serve in the country and in the city, because they're so different. And whenever anyone told me that, I was like, yeah, right, like it's the same place. It can't be that different. But really it is. The people are different. And in the country, people are more like laid back and calm, and they're like, oh yeah, come on, you can talk to us. And then the other people in the city are like super busy. They have work, full-time jobs, and then they have activities, they have kids. Whereas in Cabo Rojo, it's a lot of older people for the most part. And so yeah, so it was just really different. It was super different going from walking like really far to get to the next house to going to apartment buildings where you could knock like 600 houses in a day. So it was really cool. Oh, and another like really fun thing is that in Puerto Rico, unless it's like apartment buildings or something where the door is really accessible, most of the time we just yell. So we go outside someone's house and we yell. We're like, Buenas tardes, and they come out. And it's really fun because everyone has fences, so you don't really go up to the door and knock. So at first it was kind of weird because missionaries, like, we expect to go to the door and knock with our companion. Like, we always picture that. But in Puerto Rico, it's really fun because you just yell at them and they come out, and it's really, really fun. That was something that was so fun and different for me. But I love the San Juan mission, and it's growing so much. There's a lot of work to be done there, and there's a lot of people who are being prepared, and I know that. I know that there's people who are waiting for you guys to come and help them to learn the gospel. One thing I love about Puerto Ricans is that they're all really spiritual. They all believe in Jesus Christ and in God. Okay, not all of them, but the majority of all of them believe in God and want to serve Him and believe that there is a God. And that's such a blessing because that really is the foundation. It's just having faith in a higher power. And so it was super cool because everyone we'd meet, we'd be like, do you have faith in Jesus Christ? And they'd be like, yeah, I do. And it was just really great because they do. They really do. They have faith in Jesus Christ and they want to follow him. And so it's so cool because a lot of them really do want to learn about the gospel. A lot of them are participating in other religions, and that does make it hard. There's a lot of diversity with the religions in Puerto Rico. There's a lot of Presbyterians, Pentecostals, Catholics, Jehovah's Witness. There's a lot of different religions there. But as you respect their religion and they'll respect yours, you guys can grow together in faith. And they'll know that you are messengers of God, and they'll want to hear your message because they can see it in your eyes. And if they're that close to the Spirit and have that much faith in Jesus Christ, as they say, they will want to know what you have to say. And that's something that I really loved, was the faith that they already had in Jesus Christ, and the fact that they wanted to grow more and learn more about him. Something about the culture that was a little bit challenging for us missionaries was that a lot of people are really laid back and they don't really want to come to church. They would rather sleep in, or like they don't really, it's an island, so they just feel like island life and they just really do what they want. And so it can be hard as we're teaching the commandments or trying to get them to come to church or reading their scriptures. Having them keep commitments can be hard. But if they're really interested and they're prepared, they will be willing to do those things and make the changes to be able to be baptized. And that's something that you need to focus on, is finding those people who are prepared, because the field is white and they're ready to harvest. They're ready to be taught. And we just have to find those ones that are ready, and don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. The time is so important and special and sacred, that if someone's not progressing or if someone's not ready for the gospel, you'll be able to know. And that was the hardest thing for me, because I just wanted everyone to accept it and to be happy. But something that you'll learn is that there are people that are so prepared, and you have to spend your time with them, spend your time finding them and spending your time working with them, and it'll be such a blessing. So Spanish can be really hard to learn. That was something that was really hard for me, was knowing that I had something so important to share, but that I couldn't because the people couldn't understand me. That was something that was really hard. But as you just give yourself to the Lord, really, surrender your time and your heart and your mind and your thoughts to just learning the language, being able to do what you came to do, is such a blessing, and you will be blessed for it. I loved being able to practice with my companions and to in the streets. Like sometimes we'd forget, we'd make goals to like, okay, today we're only going to talk Spanish, and then we'd get too excited and we just want to share a story. But as you're diligent and as you're working hard to learn the language, you will learn, and you will see miracles. You will be like, how did I just say that? Did I really just understand everything they said and then reply? Like, you'll see so many miracles, and it's such a blessing to learn a new language that you will use forever. And I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to teach in the Spanish language. So the food in Puerto Rico is amazing. I love it. It's a lot of rice and beans. Something that I was like expecting was like spices, but really there wasn't really anything spicy that I ever had on my mission. Everything is actually pretty bland. But it's really good. It's super good. They use, I forgot what it's called, but it's like this salty seasoning. They use it on everything. And I love it. It's really good. One of my favorite things, let's see, I really like tostones, which is it's just like a side dish, but it's served with everything. It's breadfruit, or they make it of plátanos también as well, sorry. And it's pretty much like what I compare it to is like a flat French fry. So like it's like a French fry, and they it's not a French fry though. It's breadfruit. But they smash it, and then they deep fry it, and then they like sprinkle salt or that like salty seasoning on it, and it's super good. It just tastes like a French fry. And they also, like if you're from Utah, they have fry sauce there. And so it's really funny because they don't call it fry sauce though. They call it mayo ketchup. So if you ever like are craving something from Utah, you can get some like tostones and dip it in the fry sauce and you'll feel right at home. But it's really good. I really love it. And it's super easy to make. Also, they have this thing called pastelón, which is lasagna, but instead of the noodles, it's banana. So it sounds really weird, but it's so good. It has like cheese and the sauce and meat. And oh, it's really good. You will love it. You have to try it. They also have this other thing called mofongo, which is really good. It's funny because me and my companions, usually people in Puerto Rico eat it with meat. Like they'll get like lamb with it or chicken or something. But we would always order it plain because it was cheaper. So we'd order plain mofongo and we'd just put the fry sauce on it and eat it. And they just thought we were so crazy because he would never, like none of the Puerto Ricans would ever do that because they just always ate it with meat. So whenever we'd order it, they'd be like, really? Like, you don't want any meat? And we're like, no, it's okay. So mofongo is really, really good. But yeah, lots of good food. Okay, sisters, if you are serving in a hot climate, I have some tips for you. First off, you know those like t-shirts that are just like a regular t-shirt, so it's like a light colored t-shirt. Those will show sweat so much. You will have like sweat marks and will be embarrassing. At least it was for me. I don't know. But yeah, so I wouldn't recommend like just plain colored t-shirts because they showed sweat really a lot. So I tried to lean towards like patterned shirts or shirts kind of like this, I guess, that are like the material that won't show sweat as much, that are like the satin or like silky material is actually really nice. For skirts, just something flowy and just short, like to the mid-calf is perfect. Just make sure that you don't get, I wouldn't like recommend like pencil skirts really because it's hot and your legs will like be really hot. Also, let's see what else. If you like plan on wearing makeup, that's totally fine. I didn't wear makeup every day, but most of the days I did choose to wear just a little bit of makeup. I would wear a waterproof mascara and just like a tinted moisturizer. And chapstick is really good because your lips will get sunburnt. Also, for your hair, you'll mostly wear it up, I'm pretty sure, because it's really hot. You'll get really sweaty and you'll want to have your hair off of your neck. So I would recommend like putting your hair up. And if your hair is like too short to fit in a ponytail or in a bun or something, it's fine. Like you'll be fine. I just wouldn't really plan on wearing your hair down ever. I mean, you can like on Sundays if you want to like look nice or something, but really sisters would wear their hair down. So I've been really excited to share this story because it's so funny. Okay, so one day I was in my first area with my trainer and we locked the keys in the house. And we had an appointment and so we had to leave. And so we're just like, okay, we'll figure it out later, like what to do about the fact that we're locked out of our house and have nowhere to sleep tonight. So we ended up just leaving for the day to go teach. And our keys were still in the house and we went out to teach and then at about 9, we're like, oh yeah, our keys are still in our house. We don't know how we're going to get home. I mean, how we're going to get inside of our house. And so, yeah. So we called some people in the ward, and I think we called the police department too. We're like, what do we do? We don't know how to get in our house. And everyone was like, well, we don't know what to do. So we called the mission home, and we told them that our keys were inside of our house. And they're like, oh, really? Like, it's going to take us 3 hours to get there. But we'll come, just go to a member's house and we'll come and bring you the keys. And so we're like, okay. And we just felt so bad that they had to come from there. And we felt bad that we didn't tell them earlier that we had locked our keys in our house. So I think that my companion was like, I think one time this happened to some other missionaries or something. And so we decided to go ask our neighbor if he would be able to climb up. We lived on the second floor of like this duplex. And she said that one time he climbed up and got inside of the house. And so I'm like, okay, let's do that. And so we went over to our neighbor and we're like, hola, buenas noches. And we're like, can you come help us? And our keys are in our house. And he's like, yeah, no problem. And so he comes over and he has a knife. And it was a little freaky for me But he has like a knife and he puts it in his mouth, like he bites on the knife and starts scowling the building. Like he climbs up the building like a ninja. And it was so amazing. I was just like, oh wow, like I can't believe he's doing that. But anyways, so he gets up there, like flings himself up on the balcony. I don't know how, with a knife in his mouth. And he breaks open the lock without breaking it. Like he just opens it somehow magically. And he gets in and goes and gets us inside of our house. And so it was crazy. He was like Spider-Man. But the funny part is that after that, I had an idea. I was like, well, he just did this nice thing for us. Like, I feel like I have to give him something, or like thank him for his services. And earlier that day, I had made cornbread. And so I was like, oh yeah, I have some cornbread, like just on top of the freezer. I'm gonna go and get him some. And we go over there, and the cornbread was like, it was covered in these little ants. I'm so embarrassed to admit this, but it was covered in these little ants that like roam our house, that roam like every house in Puerto Rico. There's lots of insects, but anyway, so there was like these little like teeny ants, and I had already told him that I would get him some cornbread. He said he wanted some, and so I ended up just like brushing off the ants and like blowing them off, and feeding him the cornbread anyways, and it was really funny. And so I always joke about that. I'm like, why did I do that? Like, why did I give him ant-infested cornbread? But I'm sure he was grateful. And he had some juice, too, to wash it down. So, and I don't think he got sick. So don't sue me, anyone. Okay. So one of the best parts about a mission is the love that you grow. Before our missions, we love a lot of people. We love our family. We love our friends. We love everyone. We love people, and that love is real, and we can feel it. But something so different about a mission. The love is so much deeper than anything that I have ever felt. Because before our missions, we love people, but in return, we want them to love us back. And we want them to love us as much as we love them, or we want something back. We always want something back from the people that we love before our missions. But during our missions, that completely erases. All that we want is for them to be happy. We just want to love them. We could care less if they like us as a person. We don't care. All we want is for them to accept the gospel, to come into Christ and to have joy, to have a fullness of joy. And that's something that's so beautiful about a mission, is that it is truly the deepest love that I have ever felt. Because we do all these things, and it's just because we love them. We want to serve them, and because we love God and we believe in what we're sharing. And so the love of a missionary is pure, and it should be. And pray for that love. Pray to have love for the people and for your companions as well. You need to have that love to be able to do the work, and I promise that this love is deeper than anything you have felt, because it's not about you. It's not about you at all. It's about Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ, and about these people that you are bringing to them. So the best thing on missions is baptisms. When someone gets baptized, that's the coolest thing. Whatever you had to do to get them there is worth it. All the work that you did, all the tears, all the appointments, everything is just so worth it. One of the coolest experiences of my entire life was a baptism of one of my converts. He is so special to me, and us meeting him was such a miracle, and then him being able to overcome so many things before his baptism was amazing. I just remember the day of his baptism finally came, and he was really excited and super happy to be able to be baptized, and we were ecstatic that he was going to be baptized. And we set everything up at the chapel, filled the font with the water. That's the best sound in the world. And we waited for it to be 6 o'clock or whatever for his baptism. And he shows up. I think he was like 10 minutes late, and we were freaking out. But, oh yeah, that's also part of Puerto Rican culture, is that everyone's late. So plan everything like earlier and tell them to be there at 6:30 if it really starts at 7, and they'll show up at 7. So anyway, so he shows up late, and we were freaking out a little bit, but he made it. But it was so cool. So the coolest part was after he was baptized, you know how there's the stairs and then you go out the door and you go into the bathroom and get changed. Well, after he was baptized, we went around to the door so that we could give him a towel. And me and my companion, and we were standing out there, and he's dripping wet with the water. And, right there he kneels down and he starts to pray as he's still dripping with water, and he starts to pray to Heavenly Father, and he thanks him for the opportunity to be baptized. And it was so beautiful to be able to witness him so humble and so grateful that he could be baptized. And he did all the work. He changed all that he needed to be baptized. And it was amazing. It was a beautiful day. And the sun, I just remember the sun shining through the windows that day and just feeling so grateful. So grateful that I had the chance to be there. And he just knelt down and cried and thanked Heavenly Father out loud for this opportunity. And me and my companion were crying there too, and it was just a beautiful day. And I'm so grateful for that day, and I will always remember. So one of the hardest things about my mission was that I actually got hurt pretty bad on my back. We aren't exactly sure what happened. But I had really bad pain in my back for the last 6 months of my mission. I ended up serving for 9 months until it was time for me to come home because I could no longer walk more than like 10 minutes without having to sit down and cry for a minute. But coming home early was never in my plan. And so I think that was why it was so hard for me to accept at first, was that, I worked really hard to be out on a mission. But I finished a little fast, I guess. I had bad pain in my back, and it was to a point where after I had tried physical therapy for 2 weeks, like a couple of different medications, and the pain wasn't going away, resting didn't help. And I got to a point where I knew that me being there was impeding the work and making it so my companion couldn't work either. And I remember talking with President, going to different appointments, going to the doctors, going to physical therapy, and just hoping that I'd be able to stay. But I knew that I needed to go home and that it was time for me to go at that point. And my president and his wife agreed that would be the best thing for me to do. And as hard as it was, I knew that the Lord had a plan, and that every time in my life it's been way better than mine had been, and that it would be okay. And so, I don't know, I guess if you're seeing this video and you're preparing to serve anywhere in the world and you find out that you're going to be coming home early, just know that it's okay, that the Lord loves you and He knows you. He knows the desires of your hearts. And He knows that you have served a mission. He doesn't care if it was 6 months, if it was 2 weeks. He knows your heart, and He's the perfect one to judge us. And I'm grateful for my family and my friends who supported me so well in coming home. I'm still not better from my back. I've been home for, about 6 months now, and I'm still going to physical therapy like twice a week. And so I know that it wasn't something that could have been healed on my mission and made it so I could stay, but I've received a confirmation that this is where I need to be now, is in my home, and we can be missionaries everywhere. And I'm grateful for the opportunity that I had to be in Puerto Rico, and I wish I was still there, but I know, and I've seen so many times where the Lord has shown me blessings of being right here in my home and having opportunities to share the gospel. Wow. So if you've received your mission call to the Puerto Rico San Juan mission, you are so lucky. You will fall in love with the island and you will miss it so much when you leave. Puerto Rico is a beautiful place with people who are being prepared and who have been being prepared for years. Love them. Just love the Lord and give him your time. Surrender yourself and you'll be blessed. Use your time wisely and pray for patience and for love for them, and it will come. I know that this is the true Church of Jesus Christ and that this is the most important thing that you could be doing in your life right now, that you will be blessed as you serve the Lord. I know that the Lord needs us. The Lord needs us as missionaries, as sisters, as elders, to find his children, to find his wandering sheep and bring them home. I know that you will be happy. You will be happy and you will be blessed as you are obedient. Be obedient. Please use your time wisely and follow the rules, as crazy as they may be and as hard as they are. Just pray. Pray for help to be able to be obedient. No matter if your companion's disobedient or you're, oh, my trainer did that. Just try your hardest to be the missionary that Heavenly Father wants you to be, and know that he has called you. He needs you. He needs you if you're shy. He needs you if you're really outgoing. He needs you if you're tall. He needs you if you're short. He needs us all, and I know that to be true. And I know that this is the true church and that this is the most amazing time to be alive and to be able to have the opportunity to share the gospel. And I know that all the things that we share as missionaries are true. Also, put your name tag where you can see it when you come home. It will remind you that your mission was the best time of your life.